Hi, and welcome to this webinar that we have called Closing the Gap in B2B with a Digital Sales Room. My name is Jonas Hammarberg. I'm the founder and CEO of Space. I've been in B2B my whole life. I started with 15 years in the ERP and CRM industry, traveling the world to meet prospects, make demos, and have endless meetings, convincing a never-ending line of stakeholders that we were the best at that time. B2B sales has perhaps not changed that much in 30 years. Meetings, materials, demos, customer testimonials, and along the way, we do our absolute best to guess with our estimates of the win rate of each deal, and we put that in the opportunity in the CRM system. As a sales manager, we trust those numbers, and we trust our team to deliver, but quite often we actually don't know what's going on in the actual process. Or maybe I should say processes, because the sales rep has one process, and the buyers, they have their buyer's journey, and these do not always align. And the buyers actually run multiple journeys with potential vendors before they hopefully choose us. In the past, pre-COVID, 83% of all B2B sales were made through human meetings. And when the pandemic came, all those interactions just ended up in Zoom or in Teams. 80% Zoom in the US, 80% Teams, such as here in Sweden. Digitalization took a giant step in terms of turning the camera on, but companies now experience it has been so much more harder to make new sales. Maybe it's because many took the old format and put it in whatever tool they had on hand. It simply didn't fit. And we ended up with going in and out, in and out, in and out of meetings, shipping emails back and forward like berserk. And buyers, they didn't see the red thread. The buyer's journey was not a process. It was more of a scattered with interactions. Gartner highlighted this already 2019 when they said that the need for a new way to interact with buyers is here, where they recommend B2B to establish a space between the buyer and the seller, which they call the Digital Sales Room, DSR. One reason was, of course, that B2B sales process tend to be more complex, more critical decisions to be made, including more stakeholders, which means that B2B sales processes takes more time. Do you recognize it? Another reason was that both Gartner and McKinsey saw in their studies that buyers wanted to do more and more by themselves, while we as sellers, on the same time, would like to control the process. But it was first when the pandemic came that the challenges really arose, and they become tangible and upgraded in a brand new way, when the digital meetings became the norm. And buyers, they started to like the efficiency that they got from the first and second meetings online. And when we look at B2B sales post-pandemic, we need to recognize three things. First and foremost, the world will never ever be the same again. Already post-pandemic, we will see that the first and the second meetings will be digital. Then we will meet in a physical form on the road when it's really important to do so, but we will live in a hybrid world. The drivers behind that are both that the buyers have adopted new ways of working that fits their needs better, especially in the beginning of the journey, but also that the saving in cost, time, and CO2 emission are so distinct. Why should we fly to a first meeting and second meeting when we need volumes of those meetings? Everyone wants multiple first meetings, right? At least in sales. So why should we fly to all of them if we can cut cost, cut time, and become more efficient with everything? Second, there's actually another thing. The rule of X will still be valid. The rule of X, because first impression lasts. And in this case, we saw the pattern. Back in 99, year 2K, we saw it first happen when the web started to flourish and we moved our brand online. And soon it became commodity to have a site and it had to be appealing. since it was our face towards the market. The web became our way to diverse or to stick out against our competitors. If we fast forward to 2010, it happened again. Then it was B2C who brought their shops online, and it had to be appealing, but also optimized for the purpose to get the buyer to actually buy from us. And B2C continued to run their digital transformation with high velocity, which put them almost 20% ahead of B2B as of today in terms of digitalization. And here we are, 2020, 2021, where B2B sales during the pandemic has been stuck in multiple and endless Zoom or Teams meetings. They are neither appealing nor optimized for the purpose to get the buyer to actually buy from us. It is next to impossible to stand out in these generic tools. We also must see that there are two parts of a B2B sales process. Depending on whose eyes we use, it's a sales process or it's a buyer's journey that need to align. And there's a synchronous part of it. The synchronous interaction is when we meet. It's the meetings. And the asynchronous part is the interaction that happen before or between meetings, what the buyer do when the buyer wants to do it. And people tend to run these generic Teams or Zoom meetings in and out and then send 1 trillion emails between the meetings, and there's simply a lack of structure from the starting point to the deal is signed. We could ask ourselves, of course, is this structure not in the CRM system? And to some extent it is, but that's on the seller side. On the buyer side, they try with all means to get some kind of structure. There is a gap between buyers and sellers. And if we want the buyer to actually buy, then we need to help them, just like B2C did with their buyer's journey from the entry to the checkout. This was when I saw the light when COVID came, actually. I've been in B2B my whole life. I've been doing 140 flights a year to meet clients all over the world. I really wanted to make life easier for both sellers and buyers in B2B. This is why we built Space, to close the gap and unite the sales process and the buyer's journey into one common interaction. Space is like a natural extension to any CRM system that also could be run standalone, of course. It's the first digital sales room that actually handles both the synchronous and the asynchronous interaction between buyers and sellers. With a click of a button, you open a beautiful space for a deal or for a client, and there the journey starts. So in this demonstration, we will take 3 simple steps. First step will be the admin perspective, where we set up the basics or the fundamentals for you to be super efficient in your sales organization. Second, we will dress ourselves as sales reps. And third, we will see it from the eyes of a sales manager. This is Space. And please remember that a space is like a VIP room where you invite the buyer to a journey. And from the first starting point until the deal is signed and even beyond, you can hang out there. This is like an extension to any CRM system, which means that every single card that I have here represents a space, and in this case they represent a deal or an opportunity in your CRM system. In my example here, I have one simple space template, an example, which consists of all kind of material that is relevant for a specific use case. It can be a product line, it can be like a business area, it can be a type of customer or a persona profile. So if you address a specific industry, you can have a space template for that industry that is filled with all the demos that is relevant for them, with all the material, white papers, and with agenda activities in your meetings that are super precise to nail a deal in that kind of line of business. So the space is already pre-filled, you will see it in a while, and we have also set up 3 types of meeting. The first meeting, the second meeting, and the third meeting, and we have simply set them up here in Space. If I click on that template, you can now see that I have an agenda, I have some resources, and the agenda is not a simple text agenda. It's actually a smart agenda. It's a smart agenda that opens the right presentation, the right application, the right video at the right moment, and where you can drag and drop and build your agenda with a simple agenda builder, where you can bring in presentations, questions, you can run breakout sessions, or you can bring in external tools as a part of your agenda. Second, you have resources, and these resources can be brought in to answer questions that eventually, potentially could come, like backup slides, videos, customer testimonials, or demos that could answer the question that could come up. With that, you become super efficient in your agenda because it's minimum viable, and the resources are there as backup. So if I dress myself in the clothes of a sales rep, I go in, and when I get a new opportunity or an account, I simply create the space. I can do it from the CRM system, or I can do it inside Space in the same way with a simple button click. Or I go in here and I say create space based on that template. I get my example space, which I now can pimp for the customer. I can actually change everything in it. So I can change the name to my customer. I can change the image. I can upload the logo of the customer, and I can make it to the customer's unique experience so that the customer feels that we really care. If I enter the space, everything is now here already preset from the template, where it has maybe some products, it has some more information, and actually in here you can modify this at any time if you would like to bring in something more. It's super simple with a click. Then I can add text, image and text, heroes, videos, or other stuff, or I simply go back. If I continue to scroll down, the content of your space can be super minimalistic, or it can be very rich. It can consist of PDF documents, videos, web assets, and other content that you would like to share. If I would like to invite a customer into the space, I simply click the share link. And whenever I do that and I ship that to the customer, then they can enter and register, which means that you get their data, which can be filled into your CRM system furthermore. So if your buyer sends it further to 6 more stakeholders, those 6 more stakeholders goes in, you will earn that data into your CRM maybe. We can also invite them to a meeting. If I add a meeting, I now can choose between those templates that were already preset. If I do a sales meeting 1, then I simply choose that one. I get the meeting title, the agenda is here, the material is already loaded, and the only thing I need to do is to choose the date and time, and I invite with a simple click. I can invite through my Outlook, my Google Calendar, or the Apple. You can make your own message, you can save it at any time, and then you just send it and attach the people that you would like to invite. If I go to another space just for the sake of this demo, and I look into it, you will see that it has another look. It might have the same information, but it can also have some unique content, of course, based on this customer. If I open up my meeting timeline, you now see that we have had a number of meetings from October 12th, and all meetings are stacked up and lined up along a timeline. And along this timeline, you can at any time watch the recordings and even get the transcripts from each meeting, both as a buyer and a seller, which means that both parties has the same picture. So we build a structure here that helps the buyer to really control the buyer's journey, and for sales, of course, it's the same. If I enter a meeting, let's say the signing agreement meeting, I simply join. Now let's join me here, where you will see me do the meeting all by myself. As an example, I will now play every role, both the buyer and the seller and everyone. So I'm here, hi, and as you see, the agenda for this meeting automatically opened up. This is a team activity where normally everyone will be on screen, but I can now move from here, maybe from the welcome, hi and welcome, it's nice to see you here. Then I can move to the corporate presentation, which opens the right presentation at the right moment, and all participants gets lined up so that we still can see each other, and I can walk through the path of my deck. And this is no screen sharing technology. This actually takes place in the browser of every participant, which means that we can play full HD video with perfect sound, which has been a really struggle for most sellers today. I can then move on to the next activity, and maybe that is a poll or a question. What is most important for you? And you can add any kind of questions, which both gather data, but also take a small break in the meeting. We still see each other. It's a seamless interaction here, so we can choose what is most important, and then you can always go back to that data when the deal is done. You can go back to what they said in the first meeting. So imagine that you do 1,000 first meetings within a sales organization of, let's say, 10, 20 sales reps. That data that you collect right now can be highly valuable, and we store it here for you. Then we can move to any other, maybe a product visualization that opens up any other applications, such as in this case, 3Engage platform for animated and 3D experiences, which really makes a cool impression for the buyer. Then maybe we move to the next one, and it's time to sign the agreement. And then we have integrated, in this case, Scribe, which means that you can now go down and all participants that are to sign will automatically get the signing button. Everyone else will be in view only mode, and you can scroll through and you can sign the document with the help of Scribe. And at the end, we get to the wrap up and summary. Everyone is on screen, and maybe here comes the questions from the customer. And then with the help of the backup slides, you can now at any time just drag and drop any kind of application more or less in here, like a visualization of a Husqvarna kind of application, or you can take the Gartner Future of Sales report and walk through it. And please note that both the buyer and the seller can do exactly the same, because both can drag and drop in new files and put them on the screen. So as a sales rep, you can control what happens in your spaces with a simple click. You can go to the space analytics, and here comes the cool thing. Now you can see the participants, when they went in, how long they stayed, but you can also see what kind of interaction they did with the content that you put in the space. So if you have added an agreement, you can see who have signed that agreement. You can even go to participants and see, okay, all these have interacted. What did John Doe watch, and how long time, and when? This means that you can be so much more highly predictable in, are they really interested or not? Because imagine that you have a buyer that goes in just before the meeting and swipe through some material. They're probably not interested, as interested anyway, as someone who really crawls the whole site the first day. With the help of data, we make sales reps smarter, but we can also make them better. These are the recordings with the customers or the opportunities that I've been working with, and you can at any time go in to a recording, play it, but you can also share it with others. So you can share it with people in your organization simply by adding people that you know. And then you send a message, please give me feedback. If we see it from the eyes of the sales manager, we now can go to Insight and Analytics. Maybe we take a look at October, and we can see that in my instance here, I have 10 active users. We have 237 created spaces, 156 meetings held with 413 participants. In average, our meetings has 3.7 activities in the agenda. We have had 5.1 meetings a day that took 42.2 minutes each. This is how we can become more and more and more efficient and learn with the help of data that we didn't have in the past. This, my friends, is Space, the world's first branded digital sales room that is optimized for B2B, and the only one who handles both the synchronous, the meetings, and the asynchronous part of the buyer's journey. If you want to talk to one of our experts in virtual sales, or if you want to experience Space live, then go to www.space.com/salesconference and you will have a special fast track with the opportunity to see for yourselves. From me to you, thank you so much for tuning in. I hope to meet you again. Bye bye.